podcast. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Of course, you can see us streaming every Monday on Facebook and YouTube via Restream. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. Last week was pretty good and successful podcast. I got to introduce myself a little bit more, and I'm definitely appreciative of the comments and some of the suggestions that I've received over the course of the week. And with that being said, let's jump into another podcast. So, I have a quick story I like to tell, and it's about a young brother who having some difficulties within his relationship. And so what happened is his wife is saying various different things. I'm not going to really say what she's saying, but she's saying various different things, which then tends to set him off, right? So he gets into a situation where his emotions are very high. His emotions are leading him all over the place, and he's just reacting to any and everything that she's saying. It's as if she has him by the nose, and probably even worse by his growing and just pulling him all over the place. He's just leading him all over the place. If she turn him left, he goes left. If she turn him right, he goes right. And he doesn't seem to know how to manage himself in this situation. And what I tried to get him to understand is, as we were talking, he was trying to say to me, he's really tired of the situation. He's tired of being what he feels is being handled. And what I told him is not so much that she's handling him, is that he lacks emotional regulation and impulse management. And so this is something that I actually would like to kind of talk to my brothers today, is because a lot of us suffer from what looks like emotional deregulation and lack of impulse management. And what do I mean by emotional deregulation and lack of impulse management? When one is not in a position of corralling his emotions, I'm not saying he has to be emotionless, right? But what I am saying is that when he can't corral it in, when he can't be in a position where he is managing himself and his feelings of sadness, his feelings of anger, and then he just spouts out and say things. He may hit the wall, or he may, throw things or things of that nature there, right? Even though a woman may feel a lack of safety in that position, she also realizes the main thing about the lack of safety is that he is not stable. And so even though she may be triggering him, the responsibilities of managing the trigger is on him. It's not on her. She can support him in that, but more the onus of this whole situation, the accountability of this situation is on him. And we walk around in a situation where we are not being emotionally regulated, nor are we impulse managing. So I like to kind of give this out to some of my brothers, about 4 things that I would like to kind of say to my brothers. And really, this is not just a thing for men. Actually, this is men and women who actually suffer from what we call emotional deregulation and lack of impulse management. But at this moment right now, I'm sharing this with my brothers. Sisters, you can kind of learn from this if you're listening, right? But nevertheless, I want to speak to my brothers. So, how can we manage this situation? One, first and foremost, we have to be aware, right? Some people call it mindfulness. I'm not one who really tends to just harp on that word mindfulness, but I am saying being aware. And what are we being aware of? We're being aware of our emotions. Yes, I may feel sad about something that's being said, or I may be upset about what's being said, right? Or I might feel, because see, it's not just on the spectrum of being sad and angry, right? I might enjoy too much happiness in a situation where I'm not regulating myself correctly, even in my happiness. I might just go overboard in the happiness, right? We have to find some type of balance. We have to be aware of what it is that we're doing, how far we're going, and we have to maintain balance. Going too far to the left and going too far to the right is just going too far. We're going to have to be in a position of knowing how to set that pendulum right in the middle. So once we start looking at how to be aware, I know what I'm feeling on the inside. I then have to be in a position of cognitively restructuring. What that means, I have to rewire how I'm thinking, right? This is number two. I need to rewire how I'm thinking, right? I can't take it overboard. I can't blow things out of proportion, because when we start slamming things and hitting things and just excessively arguing, we are really taking things out of control. We're really going overboard. We're really being in a position of just blowing some things truly out of proportion. We have to then tell ourselves, hey, you know what? Let me back up a little bit. Let me look at this thing from another perspective at this point. Let me sit down and listen and see what it is that my wife is telling me, or my partner is telling me. What is actually going on here? I might be wrong in what it is that I'm thinking. So let me get some more information and find out what exactly it is that's going on here, right? Instead of just blowing a gasket, getting upset, just saying things all out of your mouth. You got some wishful thinking going on. You got some maladaptive thoughts going on. It's a lot that can be taking place in this situation. Well, only thing we have to do is just stop, slow it down, right? Just slow it down. And I tell a lot of my clients this: hey, when you get in this situation here, just slow it down. I know in some instances you hear athletes say, like, the game slows down for them and they can see the whole field, or it's just like the basket might become the size of a barn, the rim becomes the size of a barn, or whatever. They have a lot of things that they say that makes their situation better for them, because they're able to slow it down, right? And not slowing down their play, but slowing down how they're thinking about this whole situation, right? So when we start looking at how we rewire our way of thinking, that means we're just going to slow it down a little bit, right? Then next, our third, we're going to look at how we're going to use some coping mechanisms. We're going to put in play some better coping mechanisms when we are angry or when we do get sad. It's not always about taking a drug for antidepressants or anxiety medicine and things of nature there. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that some people may not need to have it. But what I am saying is that sometimes we rely on pharmaceuticals or artificial things when we really just have to be, or we should be, in a position of learning how to cope a little differently. Maybe I might need to say, hey, you know what? I need a break. I need to go outside and take a walk. or I need to go work out, or maybe I'm just going to go and read me a book. Hey, for some of us who understand, maybe I just might need to go pray. And then for a lot of us who are Muslims who are on this podcast, we understand that when we get angry, if we're standing up, we should sit down. If we're sitting down, we should lay down. This is just giving you a different coping mechanism. At the end of the day, this is what this is all about. Trying to have a better coping mechanism on how I'm dealing with a situation. It's not this magical thing that's going to take me. Oh, I'm standing up. If I'm standing up, if I sit down, I'm just going to be okay. No, that's not how it's really going to work. If you're standing up, you're sitting down, you're trying to come up with a coping mechanism in order to do something different, in order to do something better, in order to handle your situation properly. Because if you don't, then what happens is that the fever of the situation continues to get high. It continues to be heated, and then things are being said that you still have to recover from. Then worse things are being said that you already got one thing going on. Then you're going to have something else taking place. Then by the time this thing is over with, by the time you finally calm down, you got 5 things you got to recover from. And that's not good. And it makes no damn sense, personally. If you just learn how to cope a little better, if something is very stressful, hey, even being in the position of saying, hey, look, this is a little bit too much for me right now. Give me about 20 minutes. Give me about 30 minutes. Let me get my mind together. Let me process this right quick. Give me an opportunity to process what's being said, what's going on. I can come back to you a little bit later. And then just come back a little later. But nevertheless, use that as a coping mechanism to de-stress yourself, right? And lastly, now I am going to be serious about this one. Some of us really need professional help, being it a coach or a therapist or somebody who can help us, show us, guide us in a way that can help us be a lot better at what we're trying to do and be in a position to point out where we may have faltered or we may have gotten off track or even been misguided, right? Because in some of these instances, and I want to share this, and I know I've talked about this in previous podcasts and previous episodes. We are really having this situation where we're being desensitized in a way to where we're not really looking at masculine traits. And I'm not saying you got to be stoic, you have to be emotionalist and things of that nature. No, that's not what I'm saying, right? From the best of men, are those men who have shown some emotion, some sensitivities to different things. So I'm not really saying that that's something that we should be trying to do. That didn't work for some of our fathers and grandfathers in times gone past, right? But I really do believe that we have swung the pendulum entirely too far to where we got men just overly sensitive about everything. They're very touchy, right? It's like as if they win and then their things on their sleeves, right? Is that their skin is so fragile that anything just sets them off or just blows them off. And that's not good either. So we go from one end of the spectrum to the other. And that's not good. We have to again begin to learn how to set that thing right in the middle and learn how to become balanced. And that's something that we haven't had the opportunity of people to be able to be in our circles to be able to help us learn. A lot of us have suffered in silence, and we haven't felt like we had someone to be able to talk to and to get this off our chest and even get some guidance. And that's been a bad situation within our community. Many men suffer from this anyway. It's even worse within the Black community. We are probably one of the highest group of people who die earlier from a lot of health issues, a lot of stress issues, a lot of blood pressure issues, a lot of heart attacks, a lot of alcoholism, a lot of drug addiction, and all these things here because we are trying to learn how to cope with the stresses that are going on. And we have been told, drink your beer or smoke your blunt or take your pill or whatever to be able to be in a position to get over the foolishness that you've been going through. I'm saying today, as we continue to straighten the crowns of our brothers, that's not the way we have to do it. We can do this thing in a healthier way. We can learn how to be in a position of taking the leadership role in a situation. And when we are in heated situations, stop chasing, right? Because that's what's really taking place too. We are chasing the problem. And it's something that somebody told me one time, right? And it's very funny, but then I realized the truth in it. It's like looking at, you got your pet, it's a dog, right? You get off the leash and he start running. And then you start running behind him. You start trying to run and catch it. And the more you run at the dog, the further the dog continue to run away. But when you just stop and then start going the other way, then that dog going to be like, well, what the heck wrong with him? Why he's not chasing? Let me see what's going on with him. Or if you just stop and like your attention is on something else, then that dog is going to come and just try to find out what's going on with you, right? Now, I'm not saying people are animals and things of nature there. I'm saying the behavior here, right? If you stop chasing, they'll quit running. If you start taking the leadership position of saying, hey, this is how I'm going to be sensitive, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be caring, but I'm not going to fall into continue to run down these rabbit holes with you, then they're going to figure out, man, what's going on with him? He's normally running, crying, whining, complaining, slamming, throwing, bitching, all this old type of stuff going on with him. But he's not doing that right now. Why? Because he's checking out the Get Made podcast and he's learning something. He's figuring himself out. He is stepping truly into his own manhood. He's taking accountability for him. He's developing who he is, and he's enriching himself with the tools to be the best man he can possibly be. And when he gets right, everybody around him gets the benefit. So this is the beauty of what it is that I like to see coming to my brothers and being able to bring in more men, to corral in more men, to be this avenue, this oasis, to be able to find the comfort that they need to be able to grow. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about growth. That's all we're really talking about. We're talking about taking old habits, getting rid of old habits, and developing new ones. And the first habit I'm going to say to all my brothers out here is get emotionally mature. That is going to be the main thing. Become emotionally mature and start learning to have better impulse control. Meaning that I'm just not going to fly off at the mouth when something go on. Hey, Real talk, my brothers, I had to learn this myself. I may be at many times I've been an emotional wreck, and I know my impulse management was off. But when I started figuring this thing out, I'm like, man, I need to share this with my brothers. Because somewhere along the line, I didn't get it from somebody else myself. Right? So, with that being said, as always, you can please leave a comment, leave a suggestion. Please share this podcast. Please let everybody know, everybody else that you may know about this podcast. We want to continue to grow this podcast, and this is our 5th episode, and I'm loving it. I'm loving all the energy that I'm getting back. I'm loving all the things that's been said. You know, the team is actually getting stronger and getting larger. You know, sometimes that's a little scary too, right? So growing too big, but you still have to step into that, right? Because that's just a blessing. Still have to step into it. But nevertheless, please share. Again, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube, and we're being streamed via Restream. And we're going to see you guys next week.